You're listening to Afterlight Fictions. Oliver sat down on his mom's couch. Finally, a pause in all the commotion. He just sat still and sank into the cushion, letting his head relax all the way back into the top of the seat. He thought about grabbing the Afghan, but decided that might make things a little too toasty. The family get-together was finally dying down, and the people who showed up for free food had trickled away, and now the usual group of family was staying behind. Some were getting ready to play cards, others were reminiscing about the past, and Uncle Bobby, well, he saw Oliver sitting on the couch. "Yo, Ollie!" That was Uncle Bobby. "Yep," said Oliver, still keeping his eyes closed and praying that someone would intercept his uncle and give him a little more peace and quiet. "Hey, I've got a couple of nice cigars. You want to come outside and help me enjoy them?" Well, it could be worse, thought Oliver. His post-dinner nap would have to wait. A cigar did sound pretty tasty at this point. Plus, the weather was still pretty nice for this time of year. Normally, it was colder and wetter in the fall. Oliver opened his eyes and leaned forward as he rocked out of his seat. He looked up at his uncle, who was now smiling as if he had won some kind of competition. "Ha! I knew that would get you moving." "Barely," said Oliver. They moved through the screen door and stepped out to the back porch area. Uncle Bobby always sat on the swing when he smoked, so Oliver opted to relax in the old lounge chair. That would let him stretch out his legs and lean back a little. Uncle Bobby leaned over to give Oliver a cigar cutter and some matches. Last but not least, the cigar. It was darker than usual, and according to him, had a hint of coffee and chocolate. "Well, that's a fancy-looking cigar," said Oliver. "It smells nice. I thought we could try something different." They both carefully pulled the cigars out of the plastic wrapping, and each began to surgically cut one end of the cigar before burning the opposite side with a match. As Oliver held the cigar in his mouth while getting the matches ready, he could already taste the little hints of coffee. Both uncle and nephew struck their matches around the same time as they went to work on getting things just right. Finally, the cigars were lit, and Uncle Bobby leaned back into the swing as he pushed his legs off the ground to help start the motion. The chains from the swing creaked as he glided to and fro. "Sorry if your Aunt Pauline came off a little strong this year. Not only is she a little nosy, but, she cares about you." The event in question had occurred during dinner. Aunt Pauline had been inquiring into Oliver's dating life. There honestly wasn't much to report. Oliver was content with being single for the time being, but sometimes people don't like the truth when it doesn't fit into the story they've already painted. "It's no big deal," said Oliver with a little smirk. "I know she means well. One of these days I'll have something more interesting to say when she asks me about my love life." "Well, don't rush it," said Uncle Bobby. "You need to enjoy your years as a bachelor while you can." At this point, Oliver let out a large plume of smoke, and he felt it looked pretty cool. "Well, so far, I don't think I'm doing too shabby," he said as he motioned to the cigar. Oliver looked over to the toys that were sitting near the stairs to go back inside. Every time his little cousins came to visit, certain toys were bound to be thrown around and left outside, just waiting for someone's bare foot to step on them. His eye glanced over at the old roller skates. They were bright yellow, orange, and blue. A smile came across his face, and a memory that he hadn't thought of for a while popped right back into his mind. "Did I ever tell you about the parking meter girl?" asked Oliver. I don't think I've heard that one before," said Uncle Bobby as he took a big drag of his cigar. Well, most people haven't, said Oliver. It's a story that usually stays locked up here. He was pointing to his own head at this point, and his uncle was growing a little more curious. Well, let's hear it then. There's not too much to tell, but I remember one time when I was in college, I needed to get a parking pass. So I was, trying to find a spot to park my car at one point, and I couldn't find any spaces in the usual area, so I had to get a little creative. I found a parking spot that had a meter by it, and I went ahead and pulled my car in. Now, once I got situated, I realized I didn't have enough change for the meter. So what's a guy to do? I started to look around for someone who might be able to help make, some change for the couple of bucks that I had in my wallet. And that's when I saw her. Just a few cars down was this girl. She looked like she was getting ready to go rollerblading. Now at this point, it's important to remember that this is a younger me, all right? So I didn't exactly have the social skills to navigate the kind of natural beauty we're talking about here. And to top it all off, she just had this girl next door kind of charm to her. I don't know how else to put it, but she seems, kind, gorgeous, and everything else you'd want to find in someone to ask out. Uncle Bobby couldn't resist chiming in. If this story doesn't end with you asking her out, I'm going to come over there and flick away your cigar. Hey, do you want to hear the story or not? Oliver chuckled as his uncle put his hands in the air to concede. As I was saying, so I see this gorgeous girl, and I tell her my situation with the change, and she helps me out. We go to her car, and she makes a comment about how she's got a ton of change from her waitressing job, and I can just keep what I need. Oliver now sat up in his seat and leaned toward his uncle as if to reveal a secret. Now here's the kicker. At this point, as we're both talking, she was definitely giving me little smiles and subtle green lights to engage in more conversation. But this idiot was just worried about having enough change to feed the meter and get in the building to pay for my parking pass. Looking back now, she was totally giving me an opportunity to ask her out, but I just couldn't see it. Once she gave me the change and we chatted for a moment, I said, thank you, and, she just smiled back and said, you're welcome, locked up her car and skated off on her rollerblades. That's about the time when I realized I missed one heck of an opportunity. This story really sucks, said Uncle Bobby with a chuckle. Be that as it may, said Oliver, rejecting his uncle's sarcastic judgment. Every now and then, something will make me think of her, and I'll wonder what might have happened if I had just got out of my own way and asked her out. You could have told her, hey girl, care to let me return the favor by spending some of my change for dinner and a movie? Just you and me? Oliver laughed a bit at that and said, yeah, no one talks like that. That definitely would not have worked. And with that, they both just, paused a moment, not needing to fill the silence, and just enjoyed the evening as it was. Finally, Uncle Bobby slapped his knees and carefully laid his cigar on the edge of the swing. I'm going to go back in for some more of that pumpkin pie. You want another piece? Oliver shook his head. No thanks. I'll stay here and keep your cigar safe. Suit yourself. More pie for me. Oliver just rolled his eyes and smiled as he puffed another cloud into the air. He watched as it spiraled off into a breeze, and then his thoughts drifted off for a moment as well. He couldn't help but wonder again, what might have happened if he had asked out the parking meter girl?